Welcome back, everyone. Hello. So sorry about some difficulties here, but this is Taylor here at our corral, and with me I have Dr. Amy.
Hi guys.
And we are here with some very exciting things that are happening here on site. So many of you guys that probably tune in a decent amount with us, we do go live fairly often, probably remember about 2 months ago when we had a loggerhead sea turtle come into our hospital and start to lay eggs in our clinic here. Mm-hmm. That was Arlen. And Arlen's rescue was one for the book. So Dr. Amy, I know you kind of had to walk some of our staff members through that. Do you want to just give a little insight on that rescue for us?
Yeah, for sure. So she was actually stuck in the jetty rocks. Now, as you might know, most of our patients, a lot of them come from the jetty rocks, but they're those small little greens, like, yeah, little baby, little things. She's a full-size adult female loggerhead.
She's about
which was,
266.
Yeah, a very, very big turtle. It actually took 10 people to get her out of the rocks and off of the jetties.
That's a lot of people.
To get back to us.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So then once she came into the clinic, we were doing the regular intake process, and she actually started laying some eggs.
Yeah, well, I remember I was giving the hospital talk on site because we have our daily presentations, and people kind of looked at me all like, hi. And immediately I was like, something's happening in there. And I figured it out in one-of-a-kind moment, I guess.
Yeah, it's the first time we've seen anything like that. But what's really cool is sea turtles, that can be one of their stress responses. So kind of like a lot of animals have stress responses that you can see. I always think of dogs, especially like little dogs, when they get maybe a little bit nervous and they just piddle just a little bit. So it's kind of like that. You know, a bunch of them have a lot of outward ways that you can tell that they're stressed. And for sea turtles, one of them can be, if they're adult females like that and it's near nesting season and they have eggs that are ready, can be to lay eggs.
So do you think that if she hadn't got stuck in the rock, she would have came up onto like Boca Chica and possibly laid eggs?
Potentially, yeah. You know, not too long ago, we had a loggerhead nest on Boca Chica, so maybe.
Okay. So once we got her into the clinic, we had those eggs happening, we knew all about what was happening. You know, what was the next steps for those eggs?
So we made sure that we collected them carefully and put them into one of our boxes to bring them out here to the corral and bury them in the corral so that they had a chance to incubate.
Which is what we're doing here now. Now, we know it was a stress response. We know there's a chance she might have been laying eggs. Do we think those eggs were fertilized or not ready?
You know, there's actually no way to tell when they first come out like that. The only thing we could do is make sure that we give them the best chance possible in case they were. What's interesting, and the reason that we say maybe they weren't fertilized, we don't know, is that sea turtles can store sperm.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what?
Yes. So they can mate at the beginning of nesting season, and then they can store that and use that to fertilize their eggs throughout nesting season. So
cool.
If she had mated, they could be fertilized. We don't know. So we want to make sure that we give them a chance to develop in case they were.
That's so fun. I love turtles.
They're
so cool.
Cool.
I always forget about that because I know that like other turtles do, and I don't know for some reason why I forget about that with sea turtles. So I guess we can get started with our excavation so that we can see. Now, like we just said, there's a chance they might not have been fertilized. So unlike the last time we were in our corral with a bunch of Kemp's Ridley hatchlings, where you saw a bunch of babies, there is a chance that we might not see any, right?
Correct. So it has been quite a while for these eggs to be in here. So they had a lot of chances to hatch out and see babies on the surface, and we haven't seen that yet.
No.
Which means that we are going to excavate. And if they were unfertilized and they didn't develop, then we'll probably see a bunch of kind of squishy eggs.
Squishy eggs. Normally they would be kind of hard though, right?
Yeah, and they'd be bright white and pretty, kind of like the eggshells that we saw with the last nest excavation.
Awesome.
So.
All right, go ahead.
All right.
I will kind of tune in all of our friends here as to what's happening.
So this little like tool, this like little fabric, kind of meshy fabric that we have, that goes over this little corralito. That's what we call it. This little like, I don't know, tiny baby fence.
That's adorable.
Because it helps keep things like flies out. But then also when the babies come out, it makes sure that they're contained in their area. So we'll just move that aside so we can get down in here.
I think my favorite part about coming to the corral, other than seeing the babies when I get that opportunity, is seeing how fast you work. You can clearly tell you've been doing this for quite some time now.
Quite some time for sure. All right.
So just like they would out in the wild, when we bring them into our corral and rebury them in a nest cavity, we're going to do it as close as possible as we can to kind of what that female would have been digging with her rear flippers. And when they do that, excuse me, it's kind of like a little funnel. So they'll have a smaller little opening, and then they'll open it up into like a big bowl or bulb. And that will just allow all those eggs that they're laying to drop in there nicely together. Now, when they do drop in, they are going to be kind of squishy and soft. They're not going to be very hard, not like a chicken egg. And then as they stay in that nest, they're going to calcify and become a little bit harder. So our goal is, when we're out on the beaches, if we have any turtles laying eggs, we're going to try and get to that nest as fast as possible so that we can get there before they become that calcified hard egg here, as they become a little bit more delicate during that time period. And then we'll rebury them here with some of that sand. Now, because Arlen laid her eggs in our clinic, we did have to get sand from the beach itself and put them in there. Now, she did lay 69 eggs while she was with us in the clinic, which I think is super crazy. Our team was so beyond ready to capture all those eggs from her as she was dropping them. What was even cooler is we were actually open to the public that day. So we had a bunch of visitors that were actively able to watch what was happening straight from our clinic windows. So if you guys haven't already planned your trip, I'd highly suggest trying to make your way out here to the island at some point. We are open Tuesday through Sundays from about 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the next 2 days, actually, for 5 p.m. Then we go back to our normal hours on Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. But it doesn't mean you guys still can't come in and visit us. We'd love to have you on site. We do our medical treatments with our patients on site normally in the afternoons, unless we need to get some tank maintenance done, which is when we'll start early. But you are able to come in and see us. Now, Dr. Amy, how close are we to those eggs, you think?
Well, I can start to see them now, and they're looking pretty squishy.
Bummer.
So here's one. Yeah. See how like caved in that is and squished in? There's nothing that was going to develop in that, which means they're most likely all going to kind of look like this.
Okay.
But let's start looking.
All right, well, she kind of starts looking. Maria is going to give you a good view of kind of what's happening over there. And she's going to be quietly counting to herself. So I'm just going to retrace our little story here with Arlen. So on June 11th, we received a phone call that stated there was a turtle that seemed to be stuck in the rocks over at Boca Chica Beach. This is something that we are fairly used to getting a phone call for, especially with a lot of green sea turtles because of our Laguna Madre having all their favorite foods and the jetty systems having a bunch of algae growing on them. But we were not expecting to see a loggerhead. So when our team member got there, they knew immediately they were going to need some assistance to get Arlen out of those rocks because she was not a small 10 to 15 pound sea turtle. She was actually about 266 pounds, making her quite large. She is a full adult at about that weight. So we were pretty impressed by how she kind of got stuck there. But we knew we had to get her out, so we grabbed a handful of people that were actually out at the jetties that stepped in and helped us carry her to our truck so that we could transport her back to our clinic. Now, that took about an hour or so to get her there, and during that time period, when we got her out of the truck and into the clinic, we noticed that she had laid an egg. And we knew immediately something was going on with her, so she was having a stress response, most likely because she was dropping those eggs to get ready to fertilize them and possibly lay them on our beaches or on beaches elsewhere along the coast here, but wasn't able to do so because she got pushed into that rock. Now, when she was in that clinic with us, she was in that trance state just like she would do if they were out in the wild laying their eggs, so she wasn't really aware as to what was happening around her. We made sure that she had all the time she needed to lay those 69 or so eggs. Our team put them into one of our nesting boxes. That is a really cute egg.
I know, right?
That's such a
I
tiny
actually love
egg.
the little ones.
That's so fun. These eggs are a little bit larger than what we see with the Chems Ridleys, which I think are really cool. The Chems are about ping pong size. Mm-hmm. These ones are a little bit bigger.
So we got a question, none of Arlen's eggs hatched.
At this point, correct, none of Arlen's eggs hatched. Dr. Amy, are you counting or no?
I'm sorry?
Are you counting or no?
No, I'll do a full count at the end.
Okay. Would you mind just explaining again why they might not be fertilized?
Yeah. So sea turtles are able to actually store sperm, so they can mate at the start of nesting season, and they can store that throughout nesting season and use that to fertilize their eggs at different times during the season as they get ready to lay them. So if she was laying these as part of that stress response, they might not have been fertilized, meaning they might have not gotten fertilized as she was dropping them out. But there wasn't a way to tell, so we wanted to make sure we gave them a shot. And so looking at these, it looks like none of them were fertilized. But again, we don't know, so we want to make sure we give them a chance to incubate just in case.
That is true. It's been about 55 days, I believe.
Yes.
Awesome. Which is usually about the time for them. Kemps are a little bit shorter in range, but those loggerheads aren't going to be too far behind them.
Correct. They're usually pretty similar.
Now, once Arlen did finish laying those eggs in the clinic, we did continue to monitor her pretty closely. And then we started our intake process, and through that we learned that she was again 266 pounds, which props to all the people that stepped in to help us. And we learned that she actually was pretty healthy, that the only issue that she had was that she's got pushed into those rocks and became stuck. So our team decided, once we kind of got review and the word, that we were going to be able to release her. And it was pretty quick.
Sure was.
Which is pretty nice. And a part of what we're doing with a lot of our research efforts now is actively tracking sea turtles.
Yeah.
Which I think is so, so fun. Our marketing team is doing fantastic stuff behind the scenes, helping out our conservation team. It's actually marking where those turtles are and updating it every single Monday on our website so that you guys are able to tune in and kind of see where some of our turtles are and kind of learn about what we're doing. So the way that we're able to do that is with satellite tags, which is going to be another video that we actually did again with Arlen that very next day, where we watched Dr. Amy and the rest of a couple of our teammates put on that satellite tag for her so that we could see where she is kind of going to and from.
So this is, we call them hobos, because that's the brand they are. But this is a temperature logger. And so it records the temperature of the nest throughout the whole time the eggs are in the ground. We put them in most of our nests in the corral. And we want to look at temperatures because that is a direct result on the sex of the hatchlings, males versus females. So I'm just checking it, opening it to make sure that the number we wrote down originally matches, because sometimes you transfix numbers. 209.
Yep.
It is. Great. So put all that together.
Now, for those of you who don't know, like Dr. Amy just said, the temperature of the nest is going to determine the sex of the sea turtles. So for sea turtles, it's going to be cooler temperatures in the nest are going to help us produce males. And then the warmer temperatures are going to help us produce females. So that is something that we want to be monitoring, especially because it can get quite toasty on our beaches. And even though those eggs are in the sand, that temperature is going to fluctuate. Now, I remember a conversation that I had with you, Dr. Amy, about the temperature and the eggs and kind of when that happens in development. So there's going to be a handful of stages, right?
Correct.
With the eggs. So they're laid and then they start to kind of develop over time. And it's normally about 2/3 of the way through that the temperature is going to determine. Oh, look at me go.
Yeah.
You're a good teacher. So it means that there could possibly be some females, some males, or all females or all males. Is that true?
Yeah, so it's going to for sure depend on temperature. In general, kind of early in the season, we tend to see more males. Later in the season, we see more females. But there are, whoops, I poked that one. But there are temperatures that can produce both. So sometimes we'll have nests that have both males and females in it. There's a lot of variability with it.
Awesome. That's cool to know.
Yeah. But that's also why we put those loggers in so that we can monitor it and see the specifics.
These eggs are really cute.
I know.
In like a weird way. So that's really fun. And then back to kind of Arlen being satellite tagged.
Yeah.
We are doing that with our research efforts, with our conservation team, kind of leading that program here. And we're trying to figure out where those turtles are going, where they're feeding, where they might be nesting. Isn't that right?
Correct.
And what might that help us with, especially if we're not just doing green sea turtles, who we primarily see, with Arlen and stuff being a loggerhead?
Yeah. So one of the big things we're looking at, since most of them are greens, we can have a better approach to things like cold sun events if we know where they're eating and hanging out, instead of kind of going everywhere. If we know these specific areas they like to eat, they like to hang out, we can search those areas first and hopefully get them out of the cold faster. Looking at other animals, so like Arlen, a loggerhead, or other species that come in for help in the hospital, we can see where they're going, where they're hanging out, and where they're feeding, and that can help us with our response efforts and knowing where they're going.
Awesome.
I think that might be all of them, so I'm going to do a quick count, Taylor.
All right, well, you count. I'm going to just quickly explain everything and then possibly just kind of go over some other questions that we have for us. So while she's counting those eggs, she's making sure that the number that went in is the number that is coming out. These are going to be Arlen, our loggerhead sea turtle's nest that she laid in our hospital clinic after she was rescued from the Boca Chica jetties on June 11th of this year. When she came into our clinic, we got a little surprise with about 69 or so eggs, and we got the nod that she does indeed have 69 in there. And we knew that regardless of what was happening, that we had to bury these eggs in our corral area. And that was to ensure that they had a chance, because we weren't sure if these eggs were going to be fertilized or not. And that is just something that we won't find out until about 55 days or so later, once those eggs are buried in that nest cavity again. So could you explain the fertilized, unfertilized situation for us one more time?
Absolutely. So just real quick, confirmed, we had 69 eggs. So
Woohoo, okay.
Checks out perfectly. So our sea turtles can actually store sperm, which means that they
multiple
can...
baby daddies.
That's right, yes. So they can mate at the start of nesting season. And like you said, they can mate with more than one male. They can mate with as many as they want to. And they can store that and then use that to fertilize their eggs throughout nesting season. So actually one nest can have multiple baby daddies.
So cool.
So it can have sperm from multiple contributors. But if this, we thought it might have been a stress response, that means that maybe they weren't fertilized, because instead of going through the process for the nesting process, fertilizing on laying them, they may have just been laid as one of those stress responses.
And that can take about 2 weeks or so, right? So the female, or the for Arlen's case, she would drop the eggs, and then over time, over the next week or so or something like that, it would start to kind of drop in.
Usually we see it varies by the species, but usually we see about 2 weeks or so in between nests, sometimes a little bit longer, because they need that 2 weeks for after they've laid one clutch of eggs or one nest to then have their next set of eggs develop, get fertilized, and be ready to be laid again.
Okay. So there was a chance that if she hadn't gotten stuck in the rock, she would have nested on her peaches.
Maybe.
That would have been really cool. Loggerhead hatchlings, I think, are adorable.
They are pretty cute. Although I'm still always partial to chems.
If that ever changes, I will have to actually see if you're okay, because that would be concerning for me. I would like to see hawksbill hatchlings at some point in my life.
Oh, they're pretty cute too.
They're pretty cute.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So we are confirming that we have those 69 eggs.
We do.
We've discussed a little bit of everything. We've brought in the tracker. Now, we did go live again, because I just went live 5 times that week, and it was so fun, because it's something that we never get to really do that often. And we got to release her. Now, we released her Gulf side, and we did that because there's no reason for her to be in our Bay area.
No, so loggerheads would get released on the beach side, because they are going to be a species that's going to be out swimming and feeding mainly in the Gulf. Our greens we sometimes release in our bayside. They're going to be feeding on that algae and the seagrass and things like that. As loggerheads, especially adult loggerheads, are feeding more on crabs and crunchy things like that, and they're going to find most of those out in the Gulf.
Awesome. So what are we going to do with these eggs?
Yep. So I'm actually going to bag them up, and we will bag them up, we'll document them, and then they get sent actually to the state nesting coordinator as part of the federal process. Because as you can imagine, everything around sea turtles is very well documented and very well regulated.
They are very endangered. Would we be able to see the one that we
This one that
had accidentally
Yeah.
kind of popped, just so we can kind of get a good look at that?
Yeah.
It kind of gives me like chicken egg vibes, but you
Yeah.
can see that eggshell.
Yeah, so you can see that there's kind of like some yellow gookiness in here. So there would be like a yolk, but there probably wasn't any embryo or anything fertilized for it to develop. So there's going to be like a white part and a yellow part, kind of like a chicken egg. And you can see that the shell, it's kind of, and the reason that my finger went through it is because they are more like papery or leathery. They're not hard like a chicken egg.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling. I remember when I got to kind of see my first nest and helping with excavations, how strange that feeling was for me. Now I'm pretty used to it.
Yeah.
It's pretty cute.
Yeah, but you can see they're a little like squishy.
Flimsy.
Yeah.
Awesome. So fun. Now, if we believed that there was 1 or 2 eggs that might like have the embryo in it, how would we, 1, be able to tell just by looking at them, and 2, how would we test them afterwards to see if there was?
That's a great question. So they would, 1, look super different. So we do sometimes, I'll use some of our Kemp's nests as an example, because this is something we see during the season, is we have a Kemp's nest, we have the babies on the surface, we take those out, like we saw, we're going to take everything out that was in it. If one of those eggs is bright white, it's perfectly round, it looks like a really, that's basically what tells us it looks like a good viable egg. We make something called a maternity box. Yes. So it's one of our boxes that we put some damp, clean sand into, and we put that egg in there, and then we'll take it back and we will actually candle it, which is where you shine a light into it to see if there is a baby in there or not. And if there's, sometimes there's not, and it's just kind of bright and open looking inside, and sometimes there is. And if there is, then it just gets more time where it's cool and it's dark to see if it's going to hatch or not. And we do occasionally have some that will hatch and then get released.
That's so fun.
Now, none of these look like that.
No,
but
sadly.
if they did, that's what we would do. And they would be nice, bright, white, nice and round. But no, these are all squishy and unfertilized. But that's okay.
That's okay. At least we kind of know where she is.
Yes, we do.
So,
she looks like she's doing great.
She really does. I'm excited to keep watching her. I hope
Yeah.
it stays on, because I know those satellite tags don't stay on for years and years to come, like our pit tags, like our microchips and the flipper tags and stuff that we have. But I'm excited for her. We have a handful of other turtles out there too. But I think, that's kind of all that we've got, right?
Yeah.
So again, we appreciate you guys. If you haven't already heard Arlen's story, you can head over to our video on June 11th, where she came into our clinic after getting rescued from the rocks at Boca Chica Beach and started laying about 69 or so eggs in our clinic area that we were able to bring into our corral. And then thank you, Dr. Amy, for allowing us to come into the corral today and watch as you excavate. It's such a fun process. If you guys are interested in helping us out with any of our nesting efforts, our patients that are coming in, or anything of the likes, you can donate to our organization. We are a nonprofit, so we do rely heavily on y'all coming into our facility and coming in and giving us those donations, purchasing things in the gift shop. We do have an online gift shop, a handful of education programs happening, and everything of the likes. But with that, I think we are going to be signing off.
All right. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you. Have a good day.